ole, ole, ole. Guess what? It's
What?
Focus on You with Phil and Oscar. I'm Phil. That's
And
Oscar.
I'm ready to
And we're
focus on
back.
me.
Focus
Man,
on him. Do not focus on the guy over here. Focus on the guy over here. That's right. Focus on
there
Oscar.
you are. Okay, I can see. I was looking through an oil slick.
Well, man, listen. This is a great opportunity because we got our voiceover expert who is on with us today. His name is Mr. Nelson,
Nelson.
Matt Nelson, and which I keep messing up. I keep calling him Nielsen.
Have you ever gotten anybody's name right?
Yes, I have. I got your name right,
Okay,
Oscar
that's
Capel.
one. That's one in a row.
Is Oscar Capel, right? Oscar Capel. But yeah, he's going to be just talking a little bit about a lot of different things that he does, as well as something that he presented today that I didn't know he involved in. And but he explained it very well to us, and we're going to talk to him a little bit about more about autism, which he kind of explained a little bit to us today, and also just about the business that he's in, what he does. Very exciting. He said some stuff just today that I just did not realize, and so I wanted to go into that and give everyone that opportunity to live and learn a little bit about that subject. Okay, so before we go there, we have our, of course, Oscar Capel, who's going to talk about uh,
Everything I do.
everything you do. All right. Go ahead, Oscar.
So, for those of you that do not know, I am an independent associate with Legal Shield and ID Shield. What we do protect individuals, families, and businesses. And the way we do that is very simple. Everybody's got an app. We have two apps to put on your phone that are absolutely essential. One is the Legal Shield app. With the Legal Shield app, it gives you, in case of emergency, 24-hour access to your law firm, not some 1-800 lawyer, a big law firm dedicated to your state. Whatever state you're in, you'll be talking to a huge law firm there. So 24-hour access. Then the reason we need 24-hour access is the other part of what I do, which is the ID Shield. We have had over 34 billion records stolen. And what that means to people who don't really understand how bad that is, it's every number that points to us, our social security number, our driver's license, our medical insurance card, which is huge. If anybody uses your medical insurance card, their medical record gets mixed up with your medical record. And in case of an accident, there's going to be a lot of information on your medical record that the doctor is going to have to sift through in order to treat you. And that is not a good thing. So, those are the types of numbers that are being stolen and they're being sold and resold. So, there's a chance our social security number, if it's not being monitored, is being used in 3 or 4 different businesses because people are getting jobs with stolen social security numbers, and businesses can stop that, but it hurts their bottom line if they try to stop it. So they will take any valid social security number, whether or not it's associated with the name of the person that's using it. So we need that protection now more than ever because of the number of records that were stolen. So again, a lot of people use monitoring services, which is great. More important to use a monitoring service than not use one, but make sure it is one that first of all is approved, and it's been featured in Forbes for, I think, for the past 2 or 3 years as one of the best monitoring services there is, just because they have licensed private investigators to do the hard work to restore your identity. What good is it knowing that your identity has been stolen if it's going to take you 5 years and tens of thousands of dollars to restore it yourself? So be proactive, get yourself the apps on your phone, and protect your family and your business. And the second thing that we do is we work with Our Rescue, which is a company that it's a nonprofit. They go all around the world to stop human trafficking and especially focus on children. And we're having a lot of human trafficking going on. The government turns a blind eye because they need workers. They need people to work in. One was a chicken factory that this poor kid came in and has been doing slave work there until they were able to close it down. But the government turns a blind eye to it, and we really, really need to know what's going on. There is a great movie. They'll probably scroll up to it pretty soon called "It's Happening Right Here." And if it's you don't find it there, look for it online. It is how trafficking is going on here in the US. It's different than in third world countries, and it's more dangerous here because they attack our kids when the kids are online in a chat during Fortnite or whatever game they're playing. They're in the chat with someone they think is another 15-year-old, but it's actually a predator. So, we need to know what our kids are doing online, and having a page like OUR Rescue to go to and find this information is very valuable. So that is what I have to say for today. My number is 646-578-7097 if you'd like to ask me some questions. OscarCapel.com is my website. I believe that Phil had it up. And any questions, give me a call. I've been doing this for a while and helped many, many, many people. Phil, back to you. Let's get to our guest.
Doc, that was incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that again. As always, you rock. Okay, if you want more information, you could go to oscarcapel.com, or you can visit pnnstationplus.com and connect with the Legal Shield link. All right, so now let's get right with it. And I'm going to introduce our guest, Mr. Matt Nelson. How you doing, Matt?
What up, gents?
Is
What
that your real voice?
was
Well,
that?
that's
Is
what you
that
for.
your real voice? How you doing, Matt?
I'm good, gents. How are you?
Good, good, good. Well, first we just want to have you introduce yourself because I know this is the first time on Focus on You. So tell us a little bit about what you do, who you are, and what you do.
Sure. Matt Nelson, based out of Central New Jersey. I am a voice actor and live event announcer. I have my own company called Nelson Voices LLC. I am also autistic, diagnosed at the age of 2, and had the opportunity to give a 10-minute presentation earlier this morning about my thoughts on autism, my diagnosis, and basically telling people what they should and should not say to an autistic or neurodivergent person when they're interacting with them for the very first time, especially if that information becomes disclosed from the autistic to the other person.
Man, that is what you went over yesterday. I mean, no, I'm sorry, this morning.
Yeah,
Yeah, see, I'm all discombobulated.
it's not Friday
But,
yet.
but I mean, you talked about so many amazing things. But I want before we go into that, how did you get into doing voiceovers?
So I went to college to be a sports broadcaster, and I learned over the years that it just wasn't doing me any good. I had very little support from family. I wasn't noticing any improvement in my skill set and my craft. So, fortunately, one of my colleagues who used to be a sports information director at a Division II school not far from me, he recommended I check out a website that's owned and operated by Mark Frotto. For those in the sports industry that know Mark, he is the public address announcer for the Washington Commanders and Wizards, and he has his own production company called Lineker Media. He produces hundreds of sports events throughout the year, college, high school, professional sports, mainly up and down the Eastern Seaboard. But he also has his own listserv where he helps those who are in the sports industry pick up work, gigs. full time, part time, freelance, you name it. He will, if he gets an email from any random company or college in my area or down by where he lives in Maryland, he will send it out, and it's first come, first serve. So I picked up a gig at St. Peter's University, filling in for a women's basketball game. And over time, I realized that it was becoming more of my true calling in the sports industry. And I eventually shifted gears, left broadcasting completely, and just made announcing the only thing I do in the sports world. And it's brought me to places I thought I would never have the opportunity to work. I used to work with the Harlem Globetrotters, and nowadays I'm working with Division I and Division II schools. I work with a pre-professional soccer club, and yeah, as of last month, the minor league baseball gig is new, so I am back to announcing games year round from January through December.
So you're our version of Phil Rizzuto. For anybody born way back when.
Wow.
Yeah, I like that, Oscar. That's what we're gonna. That's. I think that should be a new name that we kind of put on there.
Matt Scooter Nelson is gonna.
Matt Scooter Nelson.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen, right, Matt?
Why don't you just focus on hosting and not make up your own voice?
Hey, we're on with a voiceover expert, so we got.
Yeah,
we
right.
gotta
That's why we don't do art when
I wouldn't call myself
that's on. It's like
I wouldn't call myself an expert. I'm still trying to get my first voiceover gig outside of sports. Technically, I am a voiceover artist because of the work I do in sports and the work I've been doing over the years, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert on it. I don't coach anyone. I'm still, figuring things out and, figuring out how to actually find the work, find the gigs, and, ultimately make a living out of my voice.
So when you do voiceover for soccer, do you use like the American voiceover or the Latino voiceover? Because the American voiceover sounds like we're watching golf. I mean, it's just and I'm from Argentina, so our announcers, as soon as the guy touches the ball, it sounds like they're ready to score.
I mean, if you put the word Martinez or Ramirez in front of me, I am going to give off a hint of a Hispanic accent. So I'll say Martinez or Rodriguez or Ramirez. I'm not going to fully sound American. If you pull it off, great. But what I will say to that is a lot of people. So I work with a soccer client called Real Central New Jersey Soccer. And a lot of people get part of the name of the team wrong. They think it's Real, like Real Madrid.
Like in Spain. Yeah.
No, that's not part of our branding. That's not how it works. Because the method behind the team name is because people did not believe that Central New Jersey exists. It does. Just ask Phil Murphy because he signed it into law a year or two ago. So that's what is part of the branding. Granted, they are going through some changes behind the scenes of how we're going to be rebranding ourselves because of our approach into professional expansion. So I don't know if the word real is going to be a part of the new team name down the road, but you never know.
That could, and again, using that name, people will go with Real Madrid, and now there's no such thing as a bad publicity. So you can get that and use that to no, we're not, we're real. Look, we're real.
We're not real. We are real.
We're real. Look,
our hashtag is actually be real, and the word real is all in caps.
There you go. That's great.
So, Matt, big quick question, right? Today, you did a really nice presentation on autism. Tell us about your journey with that, and give us a little bit of insight as to what it means to be autistic.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed at age 2. Um, Actually, I'm literally holding the paperwork in my hand. Um, so my family, they got a referral to have me go for a psychological evaluation to see if there was something a little bit different about me. And long story short, there was. Um, I have something that doesn't exist anymore. It's called pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified, PDD-NOS for short. And it's a subtype of autism, or at least it used to be, that indicates there are certain characteristics of autism that you display, but it doesn't mean you have all of them. Um, so over 10 years ago, the DSM decided to release their fifth model indicating that PDD-NOS and Asperger's, which for the record can be offensive and harmful to some degree, um, they basically decided that it's going to fall under the same banner as autism spectrum disorder or ASD. So
Right.
nowadays, it's something that just doesn't get mentioned. You know, I don't go into detail and info dump the fact that I have PDD-NOS because it simply does not exist anymore. I just say I'm autistic. I prefer identity first over saying I am a person with autism or I have autism and just leave it at that.
So the spectrum, because again, it's a spectrum. So you're on a spectrum that is I don't know what you say, high functioning, or how do you see the autism develop in your life? How would you know that something you're doing is part of that spectrum?
So I'm going to educate you first, Oscar, since you weren't on
Yes.
the call this morning. Um, I
This is
prefer
why we have this show. It's an educational show. So.
exactly. So I prefer not to use functioning labels when describing my autism. I instead like to focus on what types of support needs and accommodations I possess. So, as I indicated to Dr. Phil in the group this morning, I believe I have lived to 40. What that means is I I can function um, like a lot of other people who are able to do the routine things every day. So, for example, I can get dressed, take showers, drive, make meals. I live under my own roof, still learning how to live independently. Um, I have multiple jobs. I pay the bills. I run errands. I do my chores. I do the things that the average neurotypical person can probably do. But there may be some other times when I do need some assistance, especially in those really loud and noisy environments when I'm networking in person. Um, those can be hit or miss for me because of just like how noisy it is. So, what I've learned is that when I'm in a large room, I can actually do pretty well, especially if the ceiling is like extraordinarily high. Um, in smaller areas, like if I'm in a coffee shop, for example, networking in person, and there's a lot of people there, it can be overstimulating for me to be the best version of myself in front of a group that's mainly comprised of neurotypical people. There's like two other people that are either autistic or neurodivergent in that group. And so it does make it challenging for me at times to, like I said, be the best version of myself and just, you know, have a normal conversation with someone.
My wife is a teacher. She had a student once, and she said for some reason this student could not separate the noises that were going on. It's like, we're talking and there are noises going on around, but I'm talking to you. And everything would be on the same plane, the talking to person, the bird outside, everything. So it was like this flood of information that she couldn't compartmentalize it. And it was like,
Right.
it was very difficult to teach, because the kid just couldn't focus on one thing because there was all this stimulus around that she couldn't block out.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Oscar. Was she trying to like force that student to fit in with the norm and all the noises going on around? Because a lot of people try to develop a sense of people pleasing with autistic people. And that's something that I have been working on breaking out of, not pleasing others' requests or expectations. And again, I don't know, aside from what you're telling me, I don't know much about like how old the student is and it's in their relationship with the teacher. But as long as they're not trying to people please that student, the school or teacher should be open to accommodations for that child, especially if they are very sensitive to loud noises and environments.
Yeah, and it wasn't loud noise. It's just that she couldn't filter out all the other noises that were going on to focus on one thing like the class.
Right.
So it's like, I'm speaking to you and I'm aware there's a fan going on, but it's not in my it's I'm not focusing on the fan, but she would not be able to distance herself from that noise over there or this noise over here. And this was years and years ago, and she just mentioned that that's what happened in the class, that she had that student, but I don't know the background on it or what happened after.
Yeah.
She
And
just said,
and same thing here. Like I have the AC going on left, but I'm not focusing on it. Um, Again, everyone's autism is different. You just have to be aware and accept them for who they are.
I think that's what we should do regardless of just accept people. I grew up in the Bronx and went to school at NYU, and it was a great awakening because in the village, and you can't get a more diverse bunch of people. First of all, they come from all over the country, all over the world. Everybody was there,
Mhm.
and I was in a fraternity, and it was great because we had Jewish kids and we had Palestinian kids, and the Palestinian kid would come to Seder, and
Mhm.
everybody just like, hey, you do you, I do, but it was like accept people for who they are. Somebody once said it, and it's great. It's like treat every person you meet like they're a different country. They have
Yeah.
their rules,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
They have their laws. You have your laws in your country. They have their laws in their country. There are certain laws that you share, but you like, no, I want you to drive on that side of the street when I'm on in your country. So again, you mentioned like neurodivergent, all these words that are new to new to me, but new to the lexicon. So how do we learn what to say, what not to say? Where's that educational process, except for a show like this?
Well, he went over some of that earlier today. Like, what are some of the things? Yeah, what are some of the things that you had on that list? That what the things not to say to an autistic
I'm
person.
actually pulling a presentation up now. I'm not going to share it off. Like I'm not going to share like the PowerPoint itself, but
Mhm.
I'm glad you brought it up because I feel like because of the world we live in now, there's so much more information out there, and people don't know how to find it. My best advice: follow, listen to the more you understand, the more you're going to learn for future, for the future and down the road. Um, There's a lot of things that are invalidating and just make us cringe that people just don't realize when they're saying it. It just doesn't come off well. So some of
Right,
the things
right.
I mentioned early this morning when it comes to like learning what not to say, um, for example, you don't look autistic. Everyone's a little bit autistic. You're nothing like my autistic child. You must be good at, you
Wow.
must be good with math, with numbers. Autism is your superpower. No, it's not. And then, like you said before, Oscar, with high functioning and low functioning, those are things that are not validative of who we are and how we are meant to fit in today's society. And there are better choice of words that we can use to make the autistic person feel a little bit more welcoming and more comfortable within their surroundings. Um, so the other thing I touched on, what you should be saying to an autistic person, ask if they need help. Um, ask for an explanation on autism. Be open to having a conversation with them if they want to talk, and also be open to having them like join the group if they're having a meal amongst each other. But
Hmm.
also, if they say no thank you, don't force it on them, because they may need some extra time or space from said group, especially if it's a loud bunch of people that they may not want to approach right away.
Got it. Got it. Well, Matt, listen, my friend, thank you so much for coming on board and sharing with us. I believe that we've learned quite a bit from having you on. We got to have him on again, right, Oscar?
Absolutely, and I got to find the replay from this morning. Tell everybody where they can find the replay to get
Oh
the
yeah, you
deep
can
dive.
go. You can find it on our PNN station on Focus on You. Or not Focus on You on Spotify, on YouTube, and so on and so forth. Yeah, we have quite a bit of that. That should probably be posted next week. So if you want to catch Matt's presentation on YouTube or Spotify, you can check it out next week on the Phoenix National Network, or just go to pnnstationplus.com to find out more information. Matt is on there as well. What's your website, Matt? Matt Nielsen Voices?
Nelson,
Nelson.
Nelson.
Oh
Nelson.
my God.
Uh, Oscar's fault.
NelsonVoices.com is
It's
my website.
Oscar's fault.
NelsonVoices.com is my website. It will be revamped in a few weeks, but you can still have a look at it. Look at some of my voiceover demos. There will be some more reels posted there in the future, but for now, yeah, NelsonVoices.com. You can also look me up on social media. I'm on X at MATTNEL23. Instagram handle is matt.nel23.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much again. And we will see you guys again next week when we have our other special guests on. Matt, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Yeah, thank you for having me on board.
Absolutely. See you next week.